Welcome to the Conflicts of Interest Board's second public hearing, which concludes the extended comment period for the proposed amendments to Board Rules 101H and other related rules regarding reporting of travel payments. Please try to limit your testimony to a reasonable period of time. There are not too many people, so I don't think we need to have a minute limit, but be reasonable, and we will please state your name and affiliation for the record. Thank you.
Thank you for this opportunity to provide testimony. My name is Rachel Foss, and I'm the Senior Policy Advisor for reInvent Albany. reInvent Albany advocates for more transparent and accountable government in New York. We appreciate that the Conflicts of Interest Board reopened public comment on its proposed rules for travel payments in response to our September 2025 testimony and the comments of others. We continue to believe that New York City needs to be bolder in its response to the scandals that occurred during the Eric Adams administration, many of which included travel payments. Given the large number of press accounts, we think it is obvious that the public is concerned that special interests are attempting to influence city officials by paying for their travel. While we support the modest changes that COIB suggested, aligning the reporting threshold to $1,000 for all reports by agencies and individuals, and ensuring that travel be government class, we again ask the COIB to think big and ban third-party travel payments altogether. COIB excludes travel payments from the gift ban under certain conditions, not New York City law, and it is up to COIB to undo this allowance. Lastly, we ask COIB to revisit its decision to not post on its website the financial disclosures of elected officials who have left office. We believe the administrative code would allow this because it simply states that each elected officer, their financial disclosure forms shall be made available for public inspection on the board's website without written notice. We see no reason this should not apply to disclosures filed by former officials that cover the years they were in public office. For example, Eric Adams' 2025 disclosure is not currently on the website. It would have to be requested. In support of our testimony, in support of our recommendation to ban travel payments, our testimony also has data about the scope of travel payments. We reviewed financial disclosure statements filed by public officials, and we also reviewed the gifts to the city reports by city agencies, and we found some interesting things about the scope of travel payments. For example, there were hundreds of thousands of dollars of these over the last 6 years. In 2024, $77,000 of travel payments were reported by elected officials in their disclosures. For the forms that were just available yesterday, it was $28,000. This is again related specifically to elected officials' disclosures. When we reviewed city agencies' reports, we found from 2000 to 2005, $186,000 explicitly listed for travel expenses, but as COIB notes, the guidance to agencies does not specifically require them to report this. So this is probably a large undercount of the amount that is coming from these folks. I would also just lastly draw your attention, reInvent Albany has reviewed behavioral science studies about buying influence. It's an interesting thing that we encourage you to look at. We released a report in 2023 that was a literature review called Buying Influence Works. We looked at literature in various fields, political science regarding campaign contributions, medical journals regarding pharmaceutical companies' influence over doctors, and lastly, studies on studies that find that industry-funded research is skewed. So we have no reason to believe that behavior is any different regarding gifts of travel payments to public officials or agencies. I encourage you to look at the full written comments, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good morning, board and other members. My name is Zach Vieira. I've lived in New York City for 7 years, and I plan to spend the rest of my life here. This city has given me a great deal, professionally, intellectually, and personally. The people I've met here are people I intend to keep in my life, and the relationships I value most are the ones where we hold each other to a high standard, where honesty isn't optional and accountability runs both ways. I hold the institutions of the city to the same standard. That's why I'm here today in support of the board's proposed amendments to its rules regarding the reporting of donations and gifts to the city, including travel-related expenses. At its core, to me, this proposal is about transparency, and I believe the case for it is straightforward. The current reporting threshold of $5,000 is too high. There is a meaningful amount of third-party funded travel happening between $1,000 and $5,000 that the public currently has no visibility into. Lowering the threshold to $1,000, consistent as the board notes with the existing annual disclosure law, is a common sense correction to me. I don't see a compelling reason to maintain the gap, and I think the public interest clearly favors closing it, especially given prior testimony and the scandals of the previous administration. But I want to spend a moment on what I find most exciting about this proposal, which is the detail level of the new disclosure requirements. Under proposed section, I believe 119, agencies would be required to report not just the donor and the dollar amount, but who traveled, where, when, and for what purpose. To me, that shift matters enormously. We're living in a moment where the tools available to analyze and summarize large amounts of public data are more powerful than they ever have been. More granular disclosure creates a living public record that journalists, researchers, advocates, and ordinary New Yorkers can actually use. The board itself acknowledges it currently lacks basic information about how frequently third-party travel is accepted and for what purposes. Detailed disclosure is how we fix that, for both the public and the board's own capacity to govern this area well in the future. I also want to name the structural risk that this proposal addresses. The current system places approval authority entirely at the agency level with no reporting back to the board or the public. That is precisely the kind of opacity that creates conditions for abuse. In my own life, I found that the people and institutions I trust most are the ones willing to be seen clearly, not just when it's convenient. Transparency is not a guarantee against misconduct, but I think it's the minimum necessary condition for accountability. I believe the people of this city deserve to know in specific terms who is paying for their public servants to travel and why. The best relationships I have, personal and civic, are the ones where nothing is hidden. I'm here today because I want that same standard for my city. I'm grateful to the board for taking this up, and I commend the staff for the thoroughness of this rulemaking process. Thank you for your time and your continued commitment to the integrity of New York City government.
Thank you so much.
Good morning, members of the board, public. My name is Joe Arstelia. I am a resident of Brooklyn. I was born in New York, and I moved back to New York about 6 years ago. And I also plan to spend the rest of my life in New York. I'm here as a private citizen, and I support the proposed rule requiring agencies to publicly report travel paid for by outside parties. I wanted to address one objection directly, which is the worry that reporting travel tied to things like legal education will discourage people from accepting legitimate travel. I believe that actually just frames the purpose of disclosure exactly backwards. The most trustworthy institutions treat transparency as the default. They raise potential conflicts early on their own before anyone has to come looking for them. That's what this rule does. It simply asks for openness up front as a matter of course and procedure. It also aligns these rules with the city's other standard disclosure thresholds, and it's just good governance. If the concern is that the word gift itself carries more weight than the reality of continued learning, I encourage reporting the details of the travel beside it, what the event was and what it actually offered the city, say why it mattered, and let it stand on its purpose and its principles. So I ask the board to adopt the reporting requirement. This rule ensures a government who operates on transparency, who communicates potential conflicts before they become problems, whose actions match their values, and who respects and trusts us, the public, to understand what's in our interests and act accordingly. That is exactly what integrity looks like in practice, and we deserve to ask for it and expect it from the city that we love, and that gives us so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Having heard the testimony of all those present, this public hearing is now closed.